Hi, everyone. So happy Global Payroll Day. Shall I start off by saying that? Hopefully we'll have Simon, who will also join us shortly. You know what payroll's like. Everyone's running to a schedule, aren't they? So thank you for joining us. I have to say that I am a bit of a geek, and those of you that know me well know I can proper geek off about payroll because I do love talking about it. And there are so many stories that I've come across over the years, that positive stories, and also a few stories that do surprise me. So we thought, you know what, let's have a relaxing conversation just for half an hour where we can talk about payroll. And so I was going to say some confessions, but we might get into trouble, but we'll see. But I would just like to say thank you, first of all, to Zeni and Ricardo for joining us. So Ricardo, can you introduce yourself firstly? Oh, here's Simon. I'm going to add Simon. Hello, Simon.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late.
No, don't worry. We're just saying about we're all working towards tight deadlines, so it's all good. But I'm just asking Ricardo, if possible, if he could introduce himself to everyone first.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ricardo Recop, and I've been in payroll for about 30 years. I travel a few continents to do what I do best, which is payroll. And I'm working at OneTrust, and I've been at OneTrust now for 2 years. And I'm based out of Madrid.
And where are you based out of?
Madrid. I'm in Madrid, Spain.
Very nice. Very well. I'm going to say Essex, but anyway, Zeni, the other glamorous location. Would you like to introduce yourself to those that don't know you?
Well, I'm in Stockholm, Sweden, and for this day, it's actually sunny. Usually, we're not known for having sun. I think Ricardo has more of that than we have. I'm Zeni Sjören. I've been working in payroll for about 25 years. I think it's getting closer to 30 if I'm counting. I've been working in the payroll industry, trying to enhance the payroll in Sweden, but also been working closely to GPA during a few years. I'm now an independent consultant, so I work on my own, but I'm trying to strive and drive the industry in another way than I did before. So.
And Simon has been, over the last 12 months, like my travel buddy.
What you were going to say then?
I know. This is how rumours start. We did quite a lot of events last year, but unfortunately it's slowed down a little bit this year, but it will ramp up again. So for those of you that don't know Simon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Will do. Thanks, Mel. Hello, everyone. So I'm Simon Puryear. I'm one of the exec directors at Lace Partners, and I head up the payroll practice. Working with lots of different organizations on a kind of global scale to help transform their payroll operation. And I've worked in and around payroll for about 20 years now, I think. So, yeah, it's quite scary where the years go, really, isn't it? So,
yeah. I think it's even scary about how quick this year's gone.
That's true.
Yeah, I can't believe that we're heading into May. I've just literally received my outfit for the Global Payroll Awards. It turned up like that, but it arrived, and then before we know it, it's going to be June, isn't it? It's just here.
Fast coming around those awards. We're getting very excited.
I know. Well, I will say, just to go off on a tangent, we will be announcing the shortlist later on today. So watch out. We thought it'd be a good day as we're celebrating payroll to announce the shortlist.
Nice.
So payroll obviously is such a huge and important function, isn't it, really? But if I start off with Ricardo, like what do people not tell you about payroll? Like when you first joined, if you can remember all those years back, what surprised you about payroll?
Well, it was the amount of data that I needed to collect and reconcile and create a net pay out of all of that. I recall very quickly, I'll tell you, it was at Visiting Nurses of Los Angeles in LA. And my manager, I was trying to go into different sections. He was helping me out to find my own direction. And he said, try human resources, try accounting, try working with contractors, try this, try that. And finally I got to payroll. It was 5,000 nurses, all paid based on the visits that they did to the different homes. And it was a piece of paper. I needed to count the number of visits. I had to add all of that, add the different rates depending upon what they were doing, how they were doing it, and then type all that into the payroll software. And it was weekly. So it was 5,000 people on a weekly basis that you just finished it and you start all over again. So, but no one told me about all the data and all the things that go into it to make that net pay happen. It made people happy in the end to have that perfect payroll as well.
But that honestly stresses me out. Like, I feel like it's such a, like, it's an amazing story because it just goes to show, doesn't it? Like, really how far payroll has come on. Well, I hope it has come on from that, but also like the responsibility at the beginning of your career, Ricardo, is mental.
Yeah, absolutely. When I look back and I look at how things are done today, and I'm like, oh, this is much better. Obviously, it's not easy, but it's much better.
Yeah. If anybody, while you're sitting, I hope you're all grabbing a coffee, but if you've got any stories, feel free to add them in the chat. And also, I love to sort of hear where people are dialing in from today. So feel free to let us know where you're dialing in from. What about you, Zenny? What was a bit of a shock for you when you first started out?
When I started out, I almost nearly didn't had a payslip on my own. So the complexity, I'd say, and also to see how much it's about people. They can see that relations are very important, and you also that you are how much importance it is for the organizations to have a well-functioning payroll department, because that's one way in for most of the employees. So I think that struck me, and also the complexity as well, as you said, in the data. And I do agree with you, Ricardo. It's a big difference if you go back 25, 30 years in what you're doing and how you're doing it. And we don't have less to do we?
No, that hasn't changed.
Yeah. How about you, Simon? Because you come from a different angle, don't you?
Yeah, but I think it's interesting because mine was going to be sort of, I'm still amazed at how underappreciated payroll is and how people don't realize just how hard payroll is. And I think, you know, you've both just referenced that, Ricardo, when you talk about having to kind of go through all that data and kind of pull all that data together. It's a great example of where people don't realize just what goes into getting people paid. And I think when I started on my first payroll project many years ago, you know, I naively went in sort of thinking, yeah, how hard can it be? You know, it's a payroll project, it's fine. And it isn't until you really start to kind of get underneath it and you appreciate just all the effort that goes into it that you realize it really isn't a simple process. But I still am amazed at how many people think, you know, it's that classic of a magic button, isn't it? We're all still searching for that magic button that we've never found. But I still think if you did a poll of how many people still think it's a magic button out there in the outside of payroll, I think there'd be a lot of people that would say they do think there's one that exists.
Do you think actually people that are dialing in today, has anybody ever sort of said like, oh, they've heard that, well, don't you just push a button at the every month or you know, every week or something? Because it amazes me when you go to different countries and we all travel, and then, you know, I'm a bit, you know, I talk to strangers, which really annoys my partner, and then somebody will say to me, so what do you do then? And I'll be like, oh no, they've asked the question. And I'll say I'll work in the payroll industry. And then I remember one time when I was younger, I was in the sea, really random. And I was in the sea, and this woman, she was a barrister in London, and this was in the Caribbean. And she came up to me and she swam up and she went, oh, Melanie, what do you do? And I said, I work in the payroll industry. And she went, oh, and then swam off. one of the most important functions in the world, maybe, because that's what everyone works for, and people literally don't understand. I don't know if you guys saw when a lot of people got made redundant in the payroll department in Ireland, and then I looked at the comments and I had to come away because I was getting infuriated because people that were not related to payroll go, well, what's the problem? It's a tech company and all it is just pressing a button. It's just oh my god.
Yeah.
So we had, sorry, Ricardo.
Yeah, it's the misconception of what we actually do every pay period.
It is. We've got some, got here, worst nightmare, having to check payroll, just printing the pay slips and checking that everything was okay. Yeah, old times. And then here we go. So let me just say, I'm currently based in Sweden, working within payroll, focused on a single country, but I'm really interested in moving into a more global role, either by relocating to the UK or working with international payroll. What would be your top recommendations for making that transition, both in terms of building the right network and strengthening the right competencies? So I think it's a brilliant question, and it's coming away from the confessions, but it's something that I'm asked a lot. Ricardo, what would you recommend somebody if they wanted to come into the payroll industry, or global, shall I say?
Global payroll industry. I would say just follow people that are in the industry so that you can build your network. For me, I'll give you a quick example of what I've done. I was focusing on at the time it was only the US, so you have like all the different states that you need to look at in the US. Plus, you have your federal laws, you have your local laws. So that's a good start. But also, I supported for one of the industries that I worked for at the time, Israel. So that's when I got really interested in moving into global payroll. For that, I did move to Europe. I was in the UK. Then I started filing. I remember it was paperwork for pension. So I went from being a supervisor manager to filing paperwork so that I can get into that global payroll. Because in the UK, when I apply for any global role, they ask me for credentials or experience, which I had the experience on the payroll side. But anyhow, that led me to move into getting any job that had a relation to global payroll. That gave me the experience within 6 months. And I was able to apply to a payroll provider at the time. And when I got to it, they opened the door for me. And that led into learning Social Security in multiple countries. Not 100%, but you grasp the information that you require to process payroll. Also taxation, also any rules and regulations for each of the countries that I was managing about 30 countries. So I had a lot in my plate when I started, but that pushed me to get to where I am today. So it's been now, maybe 20 years since I did that. And it was a great move because I love what I do. So I think networking and just get into it. Find yourself ways of talking to people that are in the global industry, payroll global industry, that is, and so that you can get into it. So yeah.
Because I was going to say, Simon, you sort of fell into payroll, didn't you?
I did. I always use that story of falling into payroll. I mean, I think, so I was going to say, obviously, aside from Mel, that people need to attend all the GPA events, don't they? That's a great way of kind of learning more, networking. But I do genuinely believe, so my background was originally retail. Okay. And I say that, retailers are some of the sort of hardest working people, some of the nicest people you would kind of work with. But actually, I relate payroll very much to kind of retail in that sense, because genuinely, I'm always blown away with just how sort of welcoming, open people within the payroll industry are to just, talk, share experiences. And I think for anyone who kind of wants to get into payroll or expand their experience in payroll, I think it is just being very open to people about what you're trying to explore, what you want to achieve, because people will support you as much as they can on that journey. And I'm always amazed at the GPA events. I'll have people that will come up and talk to me about, there's been perhaps some people who've just finished their degree, who are at an event, who therefore want to explore about how they can start to get more involved, and everyone's very willing to kind of give their stories, share their experiences. So for me, I think it is about actually just, you know, as you say, Ricardo, networking, talking to people, exploring different kind of options, because as I say, genuinely, I think everyone is really supportive and wants to, you know, kind of bring the next generation of people into payroll ultimately.
Yeah. And Zenny, so we met a long time ago now. I think it might be 12 years, I think, if not a little bit, or maybe. Anyway, we met.
15 years.
15,
yeah.
Oh my God. I remember it as well. I'll close my eyes and remember our first conversation.
You weren't swimming in the sea, were you?
I swam off, so that's why we think it's, yeah.
I know. Like,
Yeah.
how did that woman swim off? I swam off after her and said, hold on, let me tell you about payroll. Listen. No, we met, didn't we? And again, networking, like it was through LinkedIn, and that's how we built our relationship, wasn't it? And it's almost like it feels so weird that that's how we met, but it was a brilliant opportunity.
Yeah, I think we both started at LinkedIn as well. So, and we also I remember we had a lecture once on that one. We were talking about how LinkedIn can actually broaden your network in a way you didn't imagine it could. So I think you need to link and connect to people that you find interesting within the global industry. And as Simon says, I think people are very generous in trying to connect and take the steps from being on a national or local level in payroll. I think you also could go through the organizations that are working globally. So if you take a job where you work and, you know, and that's a job does actually have border, you know, work across borders, and then you can also climb, if you say so, within that company. You start out with one kind of payroll and then you'll add on to another team, for example. So I think that's a practical way of doing it as well.
And Simon, I don't know if this is if you do speak another language other than English, do you?
Let's not test that out now, shall we?
All right. But one of the things, so we're okay, I'm going to say this on behalf of me and Simon, because we're English or British, we're lazy with learning another language. So me and Poor Ricardo spent like 2 hours on the plane with me, and I didn't stop talking a couple of weeks ago. But we were just saying, so Zenny and Ricardo, and Denise, if you're from Sweden, I'm just going to make an assumption that you speak, from your text, you speak very good English. So that would be another advantage, I would say, having multiple skills to get into the payroll industry. So always feel confident to speak English. When I go to Sweden, people go, oh, my English isn't very good. And I'm like, oh my God, your English is better than my English. So be confident when you are speaking. So we just had a comment from Anthony. From personal experience, I would say payroll people across the UK and Ireland are very supportive and always open to sharing their experiences. I agree with that. And I think, but globally, I would say that people are very happy to support and share how they've got into payroll. And everyone always says that they fell into it. So, and it's a reality, isn't it, to be honest? But I do want to say, though, so when you first started out, we all make mistakes, don't we? We and that's one thing what you do need to understand is that everyone makes mistakes. So one of my biggest mistakes, shall I say, I'm really good at making really big mistakes. So not little ones, but huge, massive ones that I think, oh my God, this is when I'm going to get sacked, or this is the end of my career. One of my worst mistakes was when I was in recruitment. It was in payroll, and I thought, you know what, I'll save my company some money. I'll produce a postcard, and I'll send the postcard out saying, you're looking for permanent work, would you consider temporary work? But what I didn't realise, it went to 20 people's offices. So their bosses received the postcard saying, you're registered for permanent work, are you looking for temporary work? And during that day, I got a flurry of some very horrible, well, you know, you can imagine the telephone calls that I got, aren't you? However, apparently it helped one person get a pay rise. So
there you go. Results.
Maybe for not the 19 others, but is there anything that you think that granted when you first started out your career? If you'd be happy to share anything.
So, I mean, I had one where one of the early projects that I had when we were going live, and we as part of that going live process, realized that we had not taken into account a manual aspect of the process that we were unaware of. Now, part of that was because it maybe hadn't been articulated very clearly to us that that was a manual process, but also from a learning perspective, we hadn't done enough to actually get underneath what people were doing today to take that into account when going live. Now, we caught it last minute, but it could have been quite catastrophic if we hadn't caught it. So now, ever since then, I'm always really clear to make sure we really understand exactly what people do today before you kind of transform to something new. But so I think, as you say, we all make mistakes. The key thing is to kind of learn from those mistakes.
Yeah, and that is so important, isn't it? Ricardo, Zeni, have you got anything?
Oh yeah, definitely. I have a few. but yeah, same job at the time when I was starting. I basically paid different people with their different timesheets. So I basically mess everything up. And people were calling and said, like, I know I did this work, but I don't remember the rates being so high. And I was like, oh, what are you talking about? So then I ended up finding out that I had used the different timesheets from different people and mixed them all up. And then, some people got paid more, some people got paid less. The good thing was that no one knew, who it was. So I just had to fix it. But having that first call when they tell you there is something wrong with my payslip, that's when everything just goes in a different direction. And obviously I was very worried about it. I tried to be a perfectionist, but at the time, of course, I made a few mistakes of those.
But how can you, like, realistically, I've got issues that I have my attention for detail. I start looking off at rosy stuff. So, but if you're dealing with 5,000 nurses weekly on paper, come on, that's gonna, I mean, that's the old days,
it's a
isn't
big
it?
job.
Yeah, the old days. But I mean, in some cases hasn't changed. Still, you are passing templates where you put your data in to ensure that that flows. But if there is one mistake on it, that could go in a different way.
Yeah. So here we go. This is today's honesty. Oh, I love your honesty. So there you go. I do think, because the thing is that everyone does make mistakes. Zeni, you got anything, or shall I go on to the next question? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, but I think that I see how the payroll industry also been progressing. I think when you had manual matters to deal with, you see that the filing, when you were filing between software and you were going to export and import data, I think that's where the mistakes were made mostly in my beginning. I also had the opportunity where I was taking care of people that had made mistakes already, so I had to sort out the things. But one thing I think is also how you explain things for the employees, and especially for peers within payroll, that the devil is in the details. If you make a mistake in saying something wrong, in how you, for example, explain overtime and anything like that, you don't do that mistake again. You always know to have the facts when you do that. So I think that's what I can contribute to.
Yeah, I do think you should learn. So we ran a survey a few years back, about 4 years back, and we asked like what the percentage was for Excel and like how many people still rely on Excel, and it was 81%. So it was still very high. So one thing I consistently emphasize to my team is that Excel skills are non-negotiable. If you want to work efficiently in payroll and HR, the ability to analyze data, build smart structures, and automate processes is a true game changer. And I do think people want to move away from Excel, but I don't think payroll people want to move away from Excel. I think it's no. Like, Ricardo's like no.
Still very helpful and supportive to the things that we do. And we can add now today with 2026, we can add AI to it. So that is a plus.
Yeah, we've got a story here, so thank you for sharing, Sarah. In one of my first jobs, I joined an audit team initially, and I learned to do a lot of reports in and out of the system, etc. Then I was moved to a proper payroll position. The way they reviewed payroll was so outdated and so slow. With the knowledge I had, I was able to do the job in half the time compared to others. Instead of asking for more work, I spent more time grabbing coffee with other departments and colleagues. Well, I love your honesty on there. You had a few more water cooler moments with what's going on. But it's true, isn't it? People coming from a different perspective, coming into payroll, you have these different skills which actually fit in really well with payroll, don't they?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we're coming to an end. It's gone so quick. I can't believe it's gone as quick as the year. It has, hasn't it? Okay, so what one thing that always gives you a sense of job well done? Do you have anything on that?
On payday, if it's quiet,
Yeah.
no messages, no emails, no calls, that's it. My job is well done.
That's a reality, isn't it? Zenny, what about you?
When you can see a difference in what you do, you can fulfill yourself. You can see this made a difference for a lot of people. I think that's when you feel this is a good one. That's from hunting errors to doing things that actually make things more efficient.
Simon?
Yeah, I mean, all of those. I think the other thing is probably that people are able to have a bit of fun along the way. You know, I'm a firm believer of life's too short. Work plays a big part of it, so we need to be able to have a bit of fun along the way. So I think if people can kind of, you know, do the job and do it successfully, but also get a bit of self-satisfaction and enjoyment out of it, then, you know, you've kind of fulfilled the brief then.
Yeah, I do agree. We got Sarah, no shame. There's no shame from us. We
Definitely not.
We have your back there, honestly. I think that's brilliant. And then Helen, thanks, Helen. Hindsight is a gift, not a weapon. The hardest thing in payroll is often that you're often making decisions under pressure with possibly incomplete information or an imperfect environment. Beating yourself up with hindsight helps no one. Learning from it with a bit of self-compassion is everything. And I have to agree with that. I think, do you know what? I was on a webinar this week, and somebody said to me, like, when you've had a bad day, what do you say to yourself? And I always think one thing I've learned is tomorrow's another day. Just go to bed. Like, some people have a glass of wine. I'd most probably have a massive box of Maltesers because that's my go-to. And then tomorrow is a better day, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's owning your kind of mistakes, isn't it? That's really important, you know, because actually you need to own them and learn from them, as Helen said. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Right. Think of the best resolution possible and how quick you can resolve it. Also, communication after finding the error. I think that is important.
Yeah.
It's best to communicate prior to employees finding out that something happened. Then after the fact.
Get ahead of it.
Yeah, exactly. Get ahead of it. And this is where I tell my team, it's not about making an error, it's how we find the resolution for it and how we act upon getting it fixed.
I mean, like, one of the things that I do think of is, I know we're coming to an end, but just super quick, I just think of the stuff that I used to hear years ago. You know, like I met one guy who said, I decided not to pay people before Christmas because, you know, we didn't have many days to do it. So I thought I'd pay people after Christmas. And then he wondered why he had 2,500 people calling. But he didn't understand payroll. He wasn't a payroll person, but he decided to make that decision. You know, there's all these stories from the early days of people that didn't understand it. But if you think about where we're at now, there's still things that need to be improved, but we're pretty nearly there, aren't we? We're you know, it's a professional industry, and I do think people do understand more about payroll now.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally. And it's a great industry to work in, you know, that's why we're all here and we've been in this industry for as long as we have, you know.
I do say, because people say to me, what payroll people like, which is such an odd question really, isn't it? But anyway, and I always say they're people that you'd want to go out for a drink with.
Yeah,
that's a very good way of putting it. Definitely.
You know, you want to spend time with,
but not in the sea with.
I mean, how rude! Oh gosh, still remember that. Ooh, payroll, and then maybe we need a T-shirt with that. Ooh, payroll. Right. Well, anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. And we've got a few more sessions today, but maybe we need to do some more light-hearted sessions now and again, just to talk about people's experiences. But thank you so much to everyone that also got involved. It really makes it more of a communication between everyone rather than us just talking between ourselves or talking at you. So thanks once again, and we'll see you all again later on. We've got another session with Helen at 3:30, talking about who her payroll hero is and everyone that's joining her session. So make sure you grab a coffee and you're free at 3:30. But happy Global Payroll Day, everyone, and we'll see you all soon. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Lenny, Simon, and Kai.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mel. Bye-bye.